After an upbeat earnings call, people thought that blue skies were all ahead for the Walt Disney Company, and then within 24 hours, of course, Marvel released perhaps their biggest flop of all times, The Marvels, starring Brie Larson. It's out in theaters, and, well, nobody is going to see it. That's according to the latest box office projections, but should you go see it? Well, we've got a review, we're ready to bring it to you. We just did Loki, now it's The Marvels. How much more Marvel can we possibly stand? The answer, maybe not much, honestly. Hello folks, welcome back to the WDW Pro channel. A joy as always to have you here with us. Part of what we like to do here is we like to be upbeat as best we can. Marvel is making that difficult. Disney continues to beat the drum of dumbing down their latest content. We wish that was not the case, but it is. And when it comes to the Marvels, well, there is little that is more dumb than this. We've got a review for you right now. Let's dive into it. Enjoy. Jonas, you've just come out of the theater. You have fresh perspective. Share with us your thoughts on what you just saw regarding the Marvels.
I would say that is a movie that was probably due for another round of reshoots and editing that they never got around to doing. It's really disjointed. There are tonal changes from cut to cut between characters, costume changes in weird spots, and this is an unfinished movie that was released to the public, is my opinion.
It feels to me like if you guys have ever been to class one day in college or high school when it's supposed to be group presentation day, this feels to me like there was a group out there that was given an assignment, but somehow every person in the group read it differently, and they all thought they had a different presentation to give. And then 5 minutes before they had to go on in front of the classroom, they all realized, oh my gosh, and they cobbled together what they had and tried to make it be worthwhile. I think that's how we wound up with a movie that has, out of its 100-minute runtime, I mean, I don't think I'm over-exaggerating. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. 40 to 50 minutes of exposition, verbal exposition. It's
you know
something.
What's funny is the first half, I felt like there was almost no verbal exposition. There was a lot of things going on that I really would have liked some quantification of what everything is. Motivations of characters needed to be established a lot earlier on.
Well, Jonas, you're exactly right. You had to have had a PhD in all of the shows that Marvel has ever done to understand this. If you had not seen Miss Marvel, there is no hope for you in understanding this. If you had not seen Secret Invasion, good luck. Although, let me say this, the Mr. Fury that is in this film is completely different than that one, so, you know, make of that what you will. If you've not seen the original Captain Marvel, then you're going to be utterly lost in this film. And so all of that, I think, you know, I often consider that if a movie requires you to have that sort of knowledge going in, that it's probably not a successful script.
You know, I don't know that is true though, because I've seen Captain Marvel several times. One time to try to break it down, and the issue that I had with that film is that they show a flashback at least 7 times in that film, and you're supposed to have some mystery about what it is, even though the advertisements for the film kind of spoiled what was going on. And they managed to get that same flashback into this film as well. I noticed that. So thank you for that, Marvel, for making me relive that that moment again. I don't think that the first Captain Marvel helps this film much at all, because everyone is so different. Captain Marvel is, I'll say this, Captain Marvel is more charming in this film than she was in Captain Marvel.
Well, let's go to Script then. Script, tell me what were the positives, what were the negatives for you?
Well, the positives is that the villain had a very simple, easy to understand goal. And yeah, I would say the cast, they had their energy came through, so they didn't feel annoying or offensive, but they were just kind of thin and empty. To put it lightly, like, yes, Carol Danvers is far better to watch in this version. She's not snarky, she's not obnoxious, but she's devoid of real conflict. And so are the other characters. Like this is a Valley Girl film. I'll put it to you that way. It's vapid and empty and thin and superficial, but I don't know if I could really say it's the worst of the Marvel films. because
I think Quantumania is worse.
Quantumania still has a charm to it, but it's sloppier. And this movie is definitely feels like it's only a third of the story of what you're actually expecting, which is also terrible given the fact that's a 90-minute runtime. So I wouldn't want a 3+ hour movie in order for it to be a fully developed film. It just it's basic. But yeah, Brie Larson is nowhere near annoying or off-putting as she was portrayed in the Captain Marvel.
She doesn't hurt random strangers in this one like she did in the first one either.
Well, that was a deleted scene.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Let's not lie. I mean, they cut that scene out because the studio realized that does not look well on the character.
Well, I didn't mean to lie. Sorry, I misremembered it. Although she somehow does shared. Get the guys.
It was a very well shared deleted scene that a lot of people suspect was actually in the movie who didn't see it, but it's not.
It was in the trailer though, right?
Nope.
No, that one was not in the trailer.
Oh, it never went in the trailer?
The scene is extended in the deleted scene, and you actually see a little bit of conflict back and forth play out in a more physical way in the deleted scene. So an extended.
Let me get my thoughts on the movie in terms of why I think it does not work. So, are there positives in this film? Let's just go. I'll come back to that in a moment. To me, this movie is sort of like when you play a video game, you will come to a level. Let's say that you're enjoying the game. Let's say it's Mario Wonder or it's an old Sonic game from the Sega Genesis or whatever it is. You'll come to a level where there's a gimmick that doesn't work, and you want the gimmick to stop, and you play through that level knowing, okay, the rest of the game will be great, and we can get back to that as soon as this level's over. And so maybe that's an underwater level. Maybe it's a level where everything's dark around you and you have to find the little torch lights to be able to see the level again. Maybe for you don't like the ghost houses in Mario or what have you. This movie to me is that level, but it never stops. I could have, the only reason I see for them having these powers that are shared that swap them in their positions, and by the way, folks, spoilers 100% coming up. The only reason I see for that is a script contrivance to make sure that Miss Marvel has to be with them. But
yes,
that could have been worked around easily. And this should have stopped within the first 5 minutes. It was nauseating and annoying. There's another situation here, too, which is that Rita Repulsa, which is what I consider this villain to be, she is Girl Ronin, but Rita Repulsa will work for now. She does not have a fleshed out backstory enough that is sufficient that you care about her, and you need to care about the villain. She's one of the worst MCU villains I've ever seen, and that's really saying something considering this is the MCU. Her plan is essentially to open up wormholes in space and suck the good stuff out of the planets or the stars that she needs to revive her homeworld. Mm-hmm. Now, that is, I believe, the premise of a single comic strip from Calvin and Hobbes back from a Sunday panel from Spaceman Spiff, and I think that was sufficient. We didn't need an entire movie of it. So she sucks the air out of a planet in order to give her planet air again.
Spaceballs.
Exactly.
Good point. I didn't think about that.
But the huge flaw in this movie with this situation is we need to see the planet that is having the air sucked out of it be destroyed. The civilization's destroyed. And instead, we get a very small seaside, I don't know what you call this thing, a seaside resort. I don't know. It's so tiny and local that you don't have the impact of realizing that an entire planet has been destroyed. You then have the exact same situation with the water planet. Mm-hmm. And again, you don't get to see the entire planet going under if it did at all. And it makes it feel very small. And then there's so much exposition in the movie that it leads me to believe, and script, maybe you might know this, it leads me to believe that this movie was reshot so many times, and then in reshooting it, they didn't have the ability to go back and show these things. So they just had to have the three women stand there and give exposition at length about what now is happening in the new script. That's all I can come up with for why this lands the way that it does. The worst, though, the most egregious sin, I think, of the movie in terms of just being utterly contrived is when one of our heroes needs to close off a rip in the dimensional space so that Once again, the multiverse doesn't come into our multiverse, although Doctor Strange should be able to fix it. He fixes everything. But that hero, for no apparent reason whatsoever, goes into the other side of the rift to close it. There's no reason given for that. And then, just out of the blue, is locked in that other dimension, despite the fact that was never raised as an issue for her closing it in the first place.
You know what's funny is I thought when you were leading up to this, until you got to the dimensional rift, I thought you were going to talk about how somebody lost the item that gives them their superpowers. But all of a sudden,
I noticed that too.
Still
I could keep going.
Superpowers.
I could, yes, and we could keep going on that too. You know, and the hammer that the villain has, I don't understand it. And if you don't explain something to me, then I don't care about it. And I don't, you know.
They did a terrible job explaining it because, for all intents and purposes, this lady, this Kree woman, is a normal Kree soldier. So why is she the big bad?
Exactly.
And the bracelet doesn't justify that explanation enough. It's basically like the quantum band. And for those of you who are not familiar with Marvel Comics, the quantum bands are actually used by a male superhero named Quasar, who is a mix of Clark Kent, Superman, and Green Lantern, essentially, for Marvel. Yes, there's a lot of contrivance. One of the things I know is that before the actor strike, Teyonah Parris was pregnant when they had to go back for reshoots. And you can tell when she's pregnant because she's wearing the bigger clothes. And there's no wide shots of her when she isn't wearing the bigger clothes. That's when the reshoots happened. That would be earlier this year, right before the strike concluded. And you'll notice there was a lot of scenes of them in Captain Marvel's starship talking and expositing and figuring out things that they otherwise should not have known. And you're very correct, Pro. I was hoping to see the fallout of these planets that are being destroyed. And I would have also really appreciated if she somehow pulled, you know, a Superman and managed to return the atmosphere and water to the planets that had them stolen, because that would make them a hero.
They left those completely out script.
It's disposable. That's the thing.
Right.
They turned this conflict. They made it very disposable. They also solved the Captain Marvel is so powerful. She can reignite a sun. It's like, that has no effort. There's no guile. There's no wit. There's no creativity.
And she pops out in 5 seconds.
Yeah. And there's no imagination to any of this stuff.
And there's no cost. I thought she was like sacrificing herself or something. And then I thought, well, this is the strangest thing, because they didn't do any build up to this. And then she pops out of that sun after 5 seconds. I thought, well, this woman can power the universe. There's no stopping her.
What if you just fix everybody's problems?
She has the physical embodiment of a Infinity Stone within her that gives her power, but there was no consequences to the fact that it's like she said, I could totally reignite that sun, but then I wouldn't be around to save all these other species from their conflicts. And it's like, well, what do? You could, and they should have reconciled to the fact that, well, a lot of these conflicts are caused by the Kree because they don't have their world anymore. So if you save the sun, hence sacrificing yourself, the Kree wouldn't be doing this anymore. It would have less justification to do it, and perhaps give them a chance to restore their homeworld, in which case your sacrifice ends the conflicts that you have been spending the last 30 years trying to mitigate. And she does it, and she could probably survive by the skin of her teeth as a result of it. And then it shows like, man, she really put herself on the line to try and right a mistake that she made, because that's what they were trying to incite, is that post Captain Marvel, she destroyed the Supreme Intelligence, which caused a ripple effect. And the Kree are doing more horrible things to other species and the Skrulls and whatnot as a result of her actions. And that's what motivated this normal Kree soldier, this woman Kree soldier, who they really should not have given her blonde hair, because some of the fight scenes between those three women, you think Brie Larson's fighting against herself.
And they're popping in and out. So that's plenty confusing.
This is also confusing. Why isn't she blue?
I know, she should have been blue.
It's so they're not even consistent with themselves and their own lore, which I thought was kind of the point of the Marvel Cinematic Universe here. It's funny. The preview was for Mean Girls, and I almost wanted to say about the rest of the Kree, why aren't you black now?
I think the other major flaw with this movie is that in the past, at least when Marvel began, you could tell which characters had which powers, and they were simple to understand. Hulk gets angry. Hulk gets big and strong. Captain America has super athletic strength and a shield. Iron Man can fly and has gadgets. We could keep going. They're understandable.
But do you understand
I don't know
why
what any
we
of these
understand
characters
all of that?
do.
I've brought this up many times. The Avengers, well, it seems like it's, you know, action figures banging together. All of those fights are level setting about what everyone can do, who is stronger than who, what happens when
Yep.
Thor's lightning hits Iron Man, what happens when Mjolnir hits Captain America's shield. Whether or not we realize it, we're getting a visual representation of information here that the audience can absorb and understand what is going on. There was some artistry to those fight scenes.
And that is why this feels like Power Rangers.
Well, actually, you know, Rita Repulsa is fun as a villain. I just got to.
This feels like but this feels like early '90s. Like if you gave me this script for one episode of the Power Rangers from the mid '90s, I'd go, yeah, we can fly with that for 20 minutes for a Saturday AM show.
Right. Yeah. I'll say something positive. The Kamala Khan's parents are hilarious. I actually like them a lot, and it makes me want to go back and rewatch Miss Marvel. I never finished that one.
Well, let's talk about the two.
Let's save that show.
Let's talk about the two scenes. Go ahead, Script, and I want to talk about the two scenes that people have been talking about and what we think of them.
Well, I will say, yeah, the parents steal the show. You actually understand what's going on with them and with the very little screen time that they have. And what's disappointing is that for reasons, they're brought aboard the Saber space station, and the entire Saber subplot is completely superfluous. You don't even need it.
Wow. And a lot of money was spent on the Saber sequences. Ridiculous things that I texted someone what happened in the resolution of that, and it made no sense whatsoever. Are we just going to go ahead and spoil it?
I don't think this movie. I don't think can be spoiled.
Everyone is saved by being swallowed by space kittens,
and it doesn't work because they're not the bad guys, and so therefore, I don't understand why they're terrified. Nobody is harmed. It doesn't seem to be painful, and yet they're all running and screaming like it's Guardians of the Galaxies with some sort of clever music behind it. And for like 5 seconds, it's amusing. And then you go, oh, this has destroyed all the stakes in the movie. This is no longer, I don't feel like there's any chance our heroes will be destroyed because I'm watching space kitties devouring the good guys as they run and scream like cowards.
Or how about that? Apparently, Miss Marvel has the superpower of wrangling her scarf through the air in order to fight soldiers, even though she's just a teenage girl.
Well, she was already doing like triple flip kicks and all kinds of stuff before that. So I mean, there's no consistency whatsoever. But of course, there's another scene that everybody's going to be talking about. We're talking about the musical Planet. What did you think of Musical Planet?
Contrived.
Very. It felt like somebody threw a spitball on a board of ideas, and they said, "We'll do that."
Yeah, that to me, I put that to Joss Whedon. Everybody's they're taking the wrong lessons from Joss Whedon there.
He has very few good ones. That's the problem. Is like there's more bad than good.
We have waiting in the wings someone who has a tremendous track record in Hollywood, and I'm hoping that he can give us some insight into where this all went wrong. Folks, please welcome once again Mr. Lou Wasserman's Ghost.
Good evening, everyone.
Happy to have you, sir.
Let me disclaim by saying I haven't seen it. I ain't going to see it, but I've been hearing all of this and other reviews. The first thing is what you said about understanding the original heroes and, Hulk smash and Cap throws the shield. It's because the comic books didn't have 32 movies to explain it to you. They had one comic book to premiere a hero that you had to get it all right away. They had wonderfully condensed exposition because they had to. These guys, well, we'll just wander around for a movie or 3 or 12 or whatever, and it never works. It never works.
The other thing, I want to make sure that I say this about this movie. You all remember in the interviews where the original stars of Star Wars critiqued George Lucas lovingly and said that they presented them with scripts that they would read it and then they would say, nobody talks like this. We can't say it this way. We've got to change it. This movie felt to me...
I don't know if we can say the direct quote from Harrison Ford. It's like, it was something to the effect of, George, you can write this stuff, but that doesn't mean we can say it.
Right.
But this movie feels like someone should have said that. Folks, there are vast periods of time of exposition, of just standing and talking exposition. And in those, they would be easier to swallow if I thought they were speaking English. But especially if you have not ever been into comic books, I'm telling you right now, if you've just got a normie, you know, a 40-year-old normie walking in there and watching this movie, they're going to say, I have no idea what language this is that they're talking
Actually,
about.
there was one scene where I thought, was that line even in English? And it was in the post-credit scene that takes place in they say something about somebody speaking gibberish, and for the life of me, I thought that Binary, which is a hilarious name for a
recent
superhero.
Marvel character too.
Yeah. Binary said something, and I thought, was she just speaking French? I don't know what she just said.
By the way, was there anybody there when you guys went to see it?
No. I've got pictures up on my Twitter of the empty theater. I could hear Taylor Swift eras going in the next theater over. And somebody said, well, why is there anything on the screen? So I turned my flash on during the movie, and I'm not bothering anybody. I will also say that as soon as the credits came on, the guys flicked the light switch on, like, okay, get out of here, loser.
Yeah, I saw.
I had two others
I was
in my
watching it
screen.
on my computer with my friend who provided me the screener. So I didn't.
So this is what I was thinking about in preparation for joining you all today. I want you to imagine a 16, 17, 18, whatever year old girl who doesn't watch this channel, who doesn't follow all the backstage, who doesn't know about Bob Iger and only knows about KK because of Cartman. And she's excited. And she and her friends are excited. And 6, 8, 10 weeks ago, whenever the tickets were first available, man, they went on the website and, hey, we're ahead of everybody else. We got the good seats. And we better get there early. And we better get our popcorn. And they go, and they're all excited. And they go in, and they sit down, and they're waiting the 20 minutes they expected. And they're looking around saying, God, was there a traffic accident? Where's everybody? Boy, the popcorn counter must be jammed. Where is everybody? And the lights go down, and it's still just them. And then they watch this thing, and all of their friends at school tomorrow are going to ask, how was it? What are they going to say?
Well, I've got an answer to some degree, Lou, but finish your thought. I cut you off on accident.
But I mean, you know, the whole buzzkill of the empty theaters and of the feeling like you were taken for a ride is palpable with this thing. It just got to be. And that's what kills franchises and studios and everything to follow. Then they have to be a cat wrangler with this one. I don't know. Somebody whose power is that they get cats to be herded.
I don't know why the cats were in this movie at all. The cats are so stupid. They're so stupid.
I will point out that
the Saber station was compromised because their eggs were everywhere or something like that. I can't remember. It was just
eggs that look like brains.
I will admit that I didn't pay a lot of attention to that stream the other day with the cats all day long that was on their channel. Hardly any. But
the stream made
I never got until I read the reviews today and heard from you guys that those cats are in the movie. I just thought they had cats because, hey, people like cats. I never even made that connection.
It's so bad.
The strange thing is
terrible.
that the cats don't seem to be rendered very well either. So it seems like they were probably expanded later in the process.
Especially when Samuel L. Jackson is petting one of them. That was just so terrible. They didn't even get the fur right while he's petting it, and it immediately pulls you out of the movie because you're like, what is... It's a CGI cat. Come on, let him pet a real cat.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. And then I'll say something about the Young Avengers.
I was just going to ask, what was the quality of the visual effects overall? Because now with a kind of a change in scenery. Okay.
Uneven. Sometimes it was video game-esque, and sometimes it was not.
Well, you know, I said before,
better than Quantumania.
I said before that people knew that Indy was going to be a stinker, and my proof was they never did anything in the parks. They didn't put those characters into the stunt show. They didn't have meet and greets, and that stuff takes time to plan. So very, very early they knew. But with this, with what you guys have all said about how disjointed it is there a certain point where they said, why should we spend more money to fix these things? It ain't going to go anywhere anyway.
Lou, Indy even had toys. Even though they were terrible.
It's a whole other story. But I'm just saying, at what point did they give up and you get what you get?
Well, they did move this from Haunted Mansion slot back in, July 28th, right, I believe, and I moved it back 4 months. I'm so surprised that it's still undercooked, given that they spent grossed $274 million on this thing and moved it back. I am just shocked that this thing is so half-baked as it is.
Well, when they found out what they reshot prior to the move, and that it performed 2 points lower than the previous version, they had to hit the edit suite again. In 4 months editing, just trying to get a cohesive 98-minute movie. And they definitely failed on the cohesive part of it because it's a plot-driven film, and it's a terrible plot-driven film because plot-driven films are terrible. You show me a plot-driven film that's good, I'll show you how it's really character-driven, and you just didn't pay attention.
Yes.
But,
yeah.
But this is a plot-driven film, and where characters are put together for the sake of the plot, things are discarded for the sake of getting characters from point A to point B, and it's void of any type of catharsis or emotional connection to what is happening on the screen.
Oh, they tried, didn't they? They tried with a couple of those really awkward scenes where they're like, I'm going to be emotional with you right now for no reason.
God. I swear the tear from Bree was CGI, and then when they cut back, they do a cut, and when they come back to her, the CGI tear is gone, and that's just laziness. Utter laziness.
I just thought of something. A few years ago, somebody came out with an app for your phone that was called, are you ready? Go Run Pee.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The idea was that when a new movie came out, they went and monitored it and figured out if you sat there in the theater with their app, it would tell you when we're about to have a 10-minute exposition scene you don't have to be there for, so you can go and run and pee. This thing sounds like it would have had a whole lot of
diarrhea.
Yeah. Around 40 minutes. 40 minutes. You could totally, go for a walk around the theater, go to the bathroom, refill your soda and popcorn, come back in and not miss a beat.
Yeah.
You know, I'm looking at the cast of this, I'm looking at the writing team, looking at the directing team, a lot of small projects, a lot of indie films. Let's say before this is the first film I think from a lot of this team in which they've worked in the level of a film this big at over $220 million net. Like Indiana Jones, at least it makes sense. You have an experienced team back there, experienced director and all that, experienced producers. Is it wise to be handing off these, $200+ million films to people so inexperienced with the results like this?
The intention here is that the producer is going to make up for it. That's the whole idea here. That was the Bruckheimer model, is you get somebody who's not experienced on this big budget stuff, and you have the producers team covering that. Am I understanding that correctly, Lou, script?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
but we just heard Bob tell us how they're going to put the inexperienced people on the little projects to grow themselves some talent. Well, this is not a little project.
Yeah, so
the thing is, that's the old school model, because what they're doing now is with what I like to call plug and play production, because the producers love to have control over their dream projects, and I mean love to have control, and it's really hard when you're like, man, I need the best director to make my passion project, but the best director comes in and says, dude, all of your ideas for this concept do not gel well with it. We got to rework it, and that pisses a producer off. But you grab someone out of the independent sphere who's desperate for a job, desperate to make a name for themselves. And even if they see the problems, they're not going to speak up because they need this job more than the producer needs them. Mm-hmm. And that's how you get Nia DaCosta. That's how you get the Russo brothers. That's how you get the people that were directing the other Marvel films or the bad Marvel Disney Plus shows. They need the credit and whatever money they can squeeze out of Disney more than the other way around. And when you have a team like that, you basically don't have any creative input from them. They're just there to fill a role. And it may be upsetting to hear from an audience that, yeah, they took a job when they really should have said no. But when you're in the entertainment industry, jobs are few and far between.
Of course.
Very, very competitive.
And further, when you have people in the executive suite who are writing you and telling you what to do, are you directing the movie or are they?
Exactly.
Right. They're directing you, directing the movie.
And this was a very paint-by-numbers film.
The three of us who have seen the film, I think we should perhaps provide a numerical score. I'm going to do a 0 to 10 score. Let's go through. Script, you tell me, what do you think the Marvels earns in terms of a 0 to 10 score? 0 terrible, 10 is the perfect movie. What do you think?
3. If it when it earns, it's probably going to be a 30% of projected discussion in the end of the day. I'm talking full global box office run.
Jonas?
I still am kind of the inclination that if I were grading this A, B, C, D, F, it would be an I for incomplete. So I'm gonna agree with script. It's a 3,
and I'm gonna give it a 2.5. So That's where I think this lands. I think that Quantumania is very slightly worse than this. However, in terms of the impact and what this will do to the MCU and to Disney at large, I think this is far worse. And at least partially because Disney has been enjoying a very fun ride today with their stock after the highly charismatic and positive and upbeat earnings report yesterday from Iger, which may or may not have any substance to it. But this, the world runs on news cycles, and this is going to decimate the Disney news cycle for the weekend as those actual box office numbers come in. Well, folks, that's a wrap for today. We hope that you came away with an understanding of whether or not you want to give your money to this movie for this weekend. It joins a cacophony, I suppose, of other reviews and reviewers who are likewise coming to similar conclusions. But as always, folks, we reserve that you may enjoy the movie. Who knows? It's just with this one, it may be rather difficult. One thing that's not difficult, though, click that like button, share, subscribe, and when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Drop a comment down below and let us know your thoughts. Have you seen the Marvels? Did you like it? Did you not? And wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.